There is a country in Europe that looks like a painting from above. Golden fields stretching beyond the horizon. Mountains wrapped in mist. Ancient cities filled with cathedrals, cobblestone streets, and centuries of memory. Rivers cutting through fertile land. Forests, minerals, ports, industry, and soil so rich it helped feed entire nations. This country is Ukraine. A land often described through war, politics, and survival. But behind the headlines lies another Ukraine. A hidden paradise of beauty, resources, culture, and unrealized potential. Ukraine is one of Europe's most resource-rich nations. It has some of the world's most fertile farmland, valuable mineral reserves, powerful industrial regions, and a strategic position between Europe and Asia. And yet, despite all this wealth, Ukraine has rarely known long-lasting peace. So the question is not only, why is Ukraine so important? The deeper question is, why has a land so rich in resources become so poor in peace? This is the story of Ukraine's hidden paradise. To understand Ukraine, you first have to understand its geography. Ukraine sits at the crossroads of Europe and Eurasia. To the west, it connects with Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Moldova. To the south, it opens toward the Black Sea. To the east and north, it borders Russia and Belarus. This location has always made Ukraine valuable. For trade, it is a bridge. For agriculture, it is a breadbasket. For empires, it has been a prize. And for military strategy, it has often been a battleground. Ukraine's open plains make it easy to farm, but historically difficult to defend. For centuries, armies, kingdoms, empires, and political forces moved across this land. That is one of Ukraine's greatest tragedies. Its geography made it rich, but also vulnerable. The same land that gave Ukraine opportunity also made it a target. One of Ukraine's greatest treasures is not hidden deep underground. It is right beneath people's feet. Ukraine is famous for its black soil, known as Chernozem, some of the most fertile soil on Earth. This soil is dark, rich, and naturally full of nutrients. For generations, Ukraine has been known as the breadbasket of Europe. Its fields produce wheat, corn, barley, sunflower oil, and other crops that help feed millions of people around the world. When the wind moves through Ukrainian wheat fields, it does not just create a beautiful image. It represents food security, global trade, and the survival of families far beyond Ukraine's borders. Sunflower fields have become one of Ukraine's most recognizable symbols. Bright yellow flowers under blue skies, the same colors seen in the Ukrainian flag. But these fields are more than beauty. They are economic power. Agriculture has helped shape Ukraine's identity, its exports, and its importance to the world. Yet even this blessing has brought pressure. Because whoever controls Ukraine's farmland controls a major piece of the world's food supply. But Ukraine is not only rich in farmland. It is also rich beneath the surface. The country has major reserves of iron ore, coal, manganese, titanium, natural gas, lithium, uranium, and other valuable minerals. These resources are critical for steel production, energy, defense industries, batteries, technology, and modern infrastructure. Eastern Ukraine, especially the Donbass region, became one of the most important industrial zones in Europe during the Soviet era. Coal mines, steel plants, machine factories, and rail networks transformed the region into an industrial powerhouse. Cities grew around factories. Families built their lives around mines. Entire communities depended on heavy industry. Ukraine also has important deposits of titanium and lithium, materials increasingly valuable in a world moving toward advanced manufacturing, electric vehicles, aerospace, and clean energy technologies. This means Ukraine's natural wealth is not only about the past. It is also about the future. A future where minerals, energy, food, and technology define global power. And that is why Ukraine matters far beyond its borders. But Ukraine's hidden paradise is not only economic. It is cultural. It is historical. It is deeply human. Kiev, the capital, is one of the oldest cities in Eastern Europe. Its golden domed churches, ancient monasteries, and wide river views tell a story that reaches back more than 1,000 years. Lviv feels like a city from a European fairy tale, with old squares, coffee houses, churches, music, and architecture shaped by different cultures. Odessa, near the Black Sea, carries a different spirit, a port city of trade, humor, art, and sea winds. And in western Ukraine, the Carpathian Mountains offer another world entirely. Green valleys, wooden churches, mountain villages, winter resorts, and traditions that have survived through generations. Ukraine is not a flat headline. It is not just a war zone on a map. It is a country of poets, farmers, engineers, musicians, teachers, soldiers, families, and dreamers. It is a place where beauty and suffering often stand side by side. And that contrast is what makes Ukraine's story so powerful. For centuries, Ukraine's wealth and location attracted outside powers. Different parts of Ukraine were ruled or influenced by powerful empires and states, including the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, the Russian Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and later the Soviet Union. This created a country with deep regional diversity. Different languages, religious traditions, architectural styles, and political experiences developed across the land. But it also created a long history of struggle over identity. Who does Ukraine belong to? What language should define it? Which direction should it face, east or west? Who controls its land, its people, and its future? These questions were never just philosophical. They shaped laws, borders, revolutions, wars, and lives. Ukraine's people repeatedly faced pressure to surrender their identity or accept control from larger powers. Yet Ukrainian culture survived. Through folk songs, literature, language, village traditions, religious life, resistance movements, and memory, Ukraine continued to exist, even when its independence did not. The 20th century brought some of Ukraine's deepest wounds. Under Soviet rule, Ukraine experienced rapid industrialization, political repression, forced collectivization, and one of the most devastating tragedies in its history, the Holodomor. Millions of Ukrainians died during the famine of the early 1930s. For many Ukrainians, this was not only a human disaster, but a national trauma, a reminder of what can happen when food, land, and political power are controlled by force. Then came World War II. Ukraine became one of the deadliest battlegrounds in Europe. Cities were destroyed, villages were burned, millions died, families were separated, communities were erased. After the war, Ukraine remained part of the Soviet Union for decades. Its factories produced, its fields fed, its people worked, but independence remained out of reach. Once again, Ukraine's resources served a larger empire more than its own national future. Then, in 1991, history changed. As the Soviet Union collapsed, Ukraine declared independence. For the first time in generations, the Ukrainian people had the chance to build their own state. A country with fertile land, heavy industry, educated people, strategic ports, energy routes, cultural depth, and a powerful geographic position. On paper, Ukraine had everything needed to become one of Europe's strongest nations. But independence did not bring instant peace or prosperity. The country inherited corruption, old Soviet systems, economic struggles, political division, and pressure from powerful neighbors. Ukraine was free, but not fully secure. It had land, resources, and people. But it still had to fight for institutions, trust, stability, and direction. And that fight would define the next 3 decades. Ukraine's modern story is also a story of people demanding a voice. In 2004, the Orange Revolution showed that Ukrainians were willing to stand in the streets against political manipulation. In 2013 and 2014, the Euromaidan protests became another turning point. Many Ukrainians demanded closer ties with Europe, less corruption, and a government that respected their future. But the cost was high. The protests led to political crisis, violence, and major geopolitical consequences. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea. Conflict erupted in eastern Ukraine. And Ukraine entered a new period of instability, resistance, and national transformation. Then, in 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The war shocked the world and turned Ukraine into the center of one of the most important conflicts of the modern era. But for Ukrainians, it was not only about territory. It was about survival, identity, freedom, and the right to exist as an independent nation. This is where the phrase, rich in resources, poor in peace, becomes painfully real. Ukraine has fertile soil, but farmers have worked under threat. It has mineral wealth, but industrial regions have faced destruction. It has ports, but trade routes have been disrupted. It has cities full of culture, but many have lived under fear. It has people capable of building a powerful future, but war has taken time, lives, homes, and certainty. And yet, Ukraine has also shown something stronger than resources: resilience. In moments of crisis, ordinary people became defenders, volunteers, medics, engineers, drivers, teachers, and organizers. Communities adapted, families endured, cities resisted, artists kept creating, farmers kept planting, workers kept repairing, students kept learning. Ukraine's greatest resource may not be its soil, minerals, or ports. It may be its people, because natural wealth can make a country valuable. But people determine whether a country survives. Ukraine's importance is not limited to Ukraine. When Ukrainian grain exports are disrupted, food prices can rise far beyond Europe. When energy routes become unstable, entire regions feel the pressure. When industrial supply chains are affected, global markets respond. When Ukraine is attacked, questions arise about borders, sovereignty, and international order. That is why the world watches Ukraine so closely. Not only because of sympathy, not only because of politics, but because Ukraine sits at the center of many global systems: food, energy, minerals, security, trade, democracy, geography. Ukraine is not a small local conflict in an isolated land. It is a country whose future affects the world. And that is exactly why its peace matters. There is a painful irony in Ukraine's story. The country has everything that should make peace valuable: beautiful land, hardworking people, deep culture, strategic location, natural wealth, a strong agricultural base, a powerful industrial history, and a future tied to technology, energy, and global trade. But those same gifts have made Ukraine a place others have wanted to control. Its soil attracted empires. Its geography attracted armies. Its ports attracted strategists. Its minerals attracted industry. Its identity attracted pressure. Ukraine's tragedy is not that it lacks wealth. Its tragedy is that its wealth has so often invited conflict. But the story is not finished. Because Ukraine is more than a victim of geography. It is more than a battlefield. It is more than a symbol of war. Ukraine is a living nation. A country still writing its future under impossible pressure. Ukraine's hidden paradise is not hidden because it is unknown. It is hidden because the noise of war often covers the beauty beneath it. Behind the headlines, there are golden fields, mountain villages, ancient churches, industrial cities, Black Sea winds, music, memory, pain, hope. Ukraine is rich in land, rich in resources, rich in culture, rich in courage. But peace, the one treasure every nation needs most, has remained painfully difficult to hold. And perhaps that is why Ukraine's story matters so deeply. Because it reminds us that a country's true wealth is not only what lies beneath its soil, it is also the freedom to live above it, to plant, to build, to speak, to remember, to choose, and to dream without fear. Ukraine is a hidden paradise still fighting to become what it was always capable of being. Not just a land rich in resources, but a nation rich in peace.